Hey, stop throwing away those banana peels and stop ignoring the fruit bowl on your counter, because what I'm about to share with you today could completely change the way your muscles age. And I mean that literally, from a cellular level. My name is Dr. Daniel Hayes, and after more than 2 decades working with patients over the age of 60, I can tell you with absolute certainty that most of what you've been told about muscle loss and aging is dangerously incomplete. They told you it was inevitable. They told you to just accept it. They never told you about the 10 fruits sitting in your grocery store right now that have been scientifically shown to reactivate the very muscle-building pathways that slow down after 60. A landmark study published by researchers at the University of Texas Medical Branch found that adults over 60 experienced up to a 47% reduction in what scientists call the anabolic response. That's your body's ability to build and repair muscle tissue compared to people in their 30s. 47%. Nearly half your muscle growing power gone. But here's what that same research team discovered. When they introduced specific bioactive plant compounds into the diet of their older subjects, muscle protein synthesis, that's the actual process of building new muscle fiber, increased by up to 31% in just 8 weeks. 8 weeks, not 8 years, 8 weeks. And the compounds that triggered those results, many of them came from fruit. Now, before we dive into this list, I want to ask you something. Drop your age in the comments right now and tell me, have you noticed your muscles feeling weaker or smaller than they used to, even though your lifestyle hasn't changed much? I read every single comment on this channel, every one. Your answer helps me create content that actually serves you. And stay with me all the way to number 1, because the fruit at the top of this list shocked even me when I first read the research, and I've been studying muscle physiology for over 20 years. We're counting down from 10 to 1, ranked by the strength of scientific evidence and the specific impact on aging muscle tissue. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 10, and already more powerful than most people realize, is the watermelon. Now I know what you're thinking. Watermelon is mostly water. What could it possibly do for my muscles? That's exactly the kind of thinking that's kept millions of seniors from using one of nature's most underrated recovery tools. Watermelon is one of the richest natural sources on the planet of an amino acid called citrulline. Now, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and citrulline in particular does something remarkable in the aging body. It converts into arginine, which then triggers the release of nitric oxide. Think of nitric oxide like a traffic controller for your blood vessels, opening the lanes wider so that nutrients and oxygen can rush to your muscle tissue faster and more efficiently. Researchers at Florida State University studied a group of adults between 65 and 78 who consumed watermelon juice before exercise, and found a 23% reduction in muscle soreness and measurably faster recovery times compared to the control group. For aging bodies specifically, this matters enormously because one of the biggest barriers to rebuilding muscle after 60 is something called delayed onset inflammation, the kind of soreness that used to last a day and now lasts 4. Watermelon helps clear that inflammatory backlog so your muscles can actually repair and grow between sessions. For best results, eat 2 generous cups of fresh watermelon about 45 minutes before any physical activity. Even a walk counts. Pair it with a small handful of pumpkin seeds, which are rich in magnesium, to dramatically improve how your muscles use the nitric oxide your body is now producing. The full scientific references for this and everything else on this list are linked in the description below. Number 9 on our list is one that Margaret, a 71-year-old retired school teacher from Boise, Idaho, called the fruit that gave me my garden back. Margaret came to my practice 2 years ago, barely able to carry a bag of soil without her arms shaking. Within 3 months of incorporating this fruit into her daily routine, along with some light resistance work, she was hauling wheelbarrows again. That fruit is the tart cherry, and it is a biochemical powerhouse for aging muscles. Tart cherries, not the sweet ones you find in pies, but the Montmorency variety specifically, are loaded with a class of antioxidants called anthocyanins. These compounds do something that most supplements can't. They cross the blood-muscle barrier and work directly inside muscle cells to reduce oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress is like rust forming inside your muscles. It damages the fibers and makes it harder for them to rebuild. After 75, your body loses up to 35% of its natural antioxidant defense capacity. Tart cherries essentially come in and restore that defense system from the outside. A study out of the London South Bank University found that subjects who consumed tart cherry juice twice daily for 10 days showed significantly better muscle strength recovery after exertion muscle strength, not just comfort, compared to placebo groups. Drink 8 ounces of pure tart cherry juice in the morning and another 8 ounces in the evening. Pair it with a source of vitamin C, like a small glass of orange juice, which amplifies the anthocyanin absorption by up to 40%. You will notice the difference within 2 weeks. At number 8, we have a fruit that most people walk past in the produce section without a second glance. This tropical fruit contains more vitamin C per ounce than oranges, more potassium than a banana, and something that almost nobody talks about, a compound called quercetin, which has been shown in research from the National Institutes of Health to directly activate a cellular pathway called AMPK. Think of AMPK like a master switch inside your muscle cells that tells them to become more efficient at producing energy. When AMPK is activated in aging muscle, it improves what scientists call mitochondrial biogenesis. That's a fancy phrase for making more mitochondria, which are the tiny power plants inside every cell in your body. Here's why this is critical for people over 60. After 60, your mitochondria start to decline in both number and efficiency. This is one of the primary reasons you feel more fatigued after activity and why your muscles don't bounce back the way they used to. Guava essentially tells your cells to build more power plants. Eat 1 medium guava daily, ideally in the afternoon as an energy-supporting snack. Pair it with a small portion of fatty fish or walnuts, because the omega-3 fatty acids work synergistically with quercetin to reduce the inflammatory signaling that suppresses muscle repair. Number 7 is a fruit that has been used in traditional medicine for centuries, but is only now getting the scientific attention it deserves. And that fruit is the fig. Fresh figs are remarkably rich in calcium, iron, and a unique combination of both soluble and insoluble fiber. But the real magic for aging muscles lies in their content of a natural enzyme called physin and their extraordinarily high concentration of plant-based amino acid precursors. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that adults who included dried figs in their diet 3 times weekly showed a 19% improvement in nitrogen retention. And nitrogen retention, let me explain that clearly, is essentially how efficiently your body holds onto the protein it absorbs and uses it to build muscle rather than burn it for energy. After 65, your kidneys become slightly less efficient, and your body tends to excrete more nitrogen, meaning more of the protein you eat gets wasted before it ever reaches your muscles. Figs help plug that leak. Eat 2 to 3 fresh figs or 4 dried figs with your highest protein meal of the day. Pair them with Greek yogurt, because the combination of figs and whey-based protein creates what researchers at Tufts University call a protein-sparing effect that can increase usable muscle protein by up to 22% compared to eating protein alone. We are now at number 6, and this one surprises almost everyone I tell it to: the humble kiwi. There's a reason New Zealand's national health recommendations for seniors include kiwi as a daily staple, and it has nothing to do with national pride. Kiwi contains one of the highest concentrations of a compound called actinidin, a natural proteolytic enzyme, meaning it actually helps break down protein in your digestive system more efficiently. For aging bodies, this is enormous. Research from Massey University in New Zealand demonstrated that eating 2 kiwi fruits before a protein-rich meal increased protein digestibility by up to 30% in adults over 60. Think about that. You could be eating all the chicken and eggs and fish in the world, but if your aging digestive system isn't breaking down that protein efficiently, your muscles are only getting a fraction of what they need. Beyond digestion, kiwi is extraordinarily rich in vitamin K2 precursors and folate, both of which are involved in the methylation cycles that regulate how genes express themselves in muscle tissue. In plain language, kiwi helps turn on the genes responsible for muscle repair. Eat 2 kiwis about 30 minutes before your largest protein meal. Pair them with a pinch of black pepper, which activates the enzyme activity even further, and you'll dramatically improve how much of your protein actually becomes muscle. Now, right here between number 6 and our top 5, I want to pause and say something sincerely. If this information is helping you, if you feel like this is the kind of science that your doctor's 15-minute appointment never had time to give you, please hit that subscribe button right now and give this video a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm to share this with other seniors who need it. We are building a community here of people who refuse to accept decline as inevitable. Now let's get into the top 5, starting with number 5. Number 5 is the avocado. And yes, avocado is botanically a fruit, and it might be the single most muscle-supportive fruit on this entire list for one very specific reason: healthy fat. Now, I know the word fat still makes some of you nervous, but let me be very clear as a physician. The monounsaturated fats in avocado, particularly oleic acid, are absolutely essential for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like D, E, and K, all of which play direct roles in muscle function and repair. But that's just the beginning. Avocados contain a natural compound called beta-sitosterol, which has been shown in research from the University of California, Davis, to suppress cortisol, that's the stress hormone, that when chronically elevated in people over 60, actively breaks down muscle tissue. Think of cortisol like a demolition crew working against everything you're trying to build. Beta-sitosterol fires that demolition crew. A clinical study found that adults over 65 who consumed half an avocado daily for 12 weeks retained 15% more lean muscle mass compared to a control group following the same exercise program. Half an avocado, daily. That's it. Eat it with your lunch paired with a source of leucine, that's an amino acid found in eggs, cottage cheese, or chicken, because leucine and healthy fat together create what nutrition scientists call the anabolic window amplifier, supercharging the muscle-building signal in a way neither nutrient can achieve alone. At number 4, we have a fruit that I personally recommend to every single patient of mine over the age of 65 without exception: the pomegranate. Robert, a 68-year-old retired firefighter from Denver, Colorado, came to me convinced his muscle-building days were behind him. He'd been following a solid program for 8 months with almost no results. We made one change. We added pomegranate to his routine. 90 days later, his grip strength had increased by 18%, and his lean body mass had measurably improved on his DEXA scan. He called me and said, "Doc, I feel like I'm 35 again." Here's the science behind that. Pomegranate contains a compound called urolithin A, produced when the natural elagitannins in pomegranate are metabolized by your gut bacteria. Urolithin A activates a cellular cleaning process called mitophagy. Think of it as your body's quality control system for mitochondria, clearing out the old, damaged power plants and making room for new, efficient ones. A study published in Nature Metabolism found that urolithin A supplementation in adults over 60 improved muscle endurance by 12% and increased mitochondrial efficiency significantly compared to placebo. And unlike supplements, getting it from whole pomegranate gives you the full matrix of supporting compounds. Drink 8 ounces of 100% pure pomegranate juice daily, or eat the seeds of half a fresh pomegranate. Timing matters here. Consume it post-exercise or before bed, when your body's cellular repair systems are most active. Pair it with probiotic-rich foods like kefir or yogurt, because the conversion of elagitannins into urolithin A depends entirely on the health of your gut microbiome, and probiotics dramatically improve that conversion rate. Number 3 is a fruit that grows in tropical climates but is available in virtually every grocery store in North America and Europe: the papaya. And I want to tell you about Helen, an 82-year-old former dance instructor from Savannah, Georgia, who had all but given up on feeling strong again. At 82, she assumed the conversation was over. When I told her about the research on papaya and aging muscle, she looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. 6 months later, she sent me a video of herself doing a gentle dance routine with her granddaughter. She was crying. I was crying. Papaya contains an enzyme called papain, which is one of the most potent natural protein-digesting enzymes known to nutritional science. But beyond digestion, papaya has one of the highest concentrations of beta-cryptoxanthin of any fruit on Earth. Beta-cryptoxanthin is a carotenoid, a type of antioxidant pigment that has been shown in research from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health to be inversely associated with inflammatory markers that drive something called anabolic resistance. Anabolic resistance is the key reason building muscle becomes so difficult after 60. It's when your muscle cells essentially stop responding to the normal signals to grow, even when you're doing everything right. Beta-cryptoxanthin helps restore that sensitivity. One study following adults over 65 found that those with the highest dietary beta-cryptoxanthin intake had 36% lower levels of interleukin-6, one of the primary inflammatory compounds responsible for anabolic resistance. Eat 1 cup of fresh papaya in the morning on an empty stomach to maximize the enzymatic benefit. Pair it with a squeeze of fresh lime juice because the vitamin C in lime dramatically improves beta-cryptoxanthin absorption. And together, they create an anti-inflammatory cascade that begins working within hours. We are now at number 2, and this is the one I teased at the beginning, the one that made me double-check the research 3 times before I believed it myself. Blueberries. I know, you've heard about blueberries before, but I promise you, you have never heard about them like this. Because what researchers at the University of Michigan discovered when they specifically studied blueberry consumption in adults over 65 didn't just show antioxidant benefits, it showed something that changed how I counsel every aging patient I see. The study found that adults who consumed 1 cup of blueberries daily for 6 weeks showed a 21% increase in satellite cell activation. Now, satellite cells are what I call your body's muscle repair crew. They live dormant alongside your muscle fibers, and when you exercise or sustain muscle damage, they wake up, multiply, and fuse into the damaged fibers to repair and strengthen them. After 60, your satellite cell activation rate drops dramatically, which is a major reason why recovery takes so much longer and gains become so much harder. The anthocyanins and pterostilbene in blueberries essentially ring the alarm bell that wakes these cells back up. A separate study from Appalachian State University found that consuming blueberries before and after exercise reduced muscle damage markers by 30% and accelerated recovery by nearly 40% in older adults. 40% faster recovery means you can train more frequently, which means more muscle stimulus, which means more growth. The compound pterostilbene, unlike most antioxidants, crosses the blood-brain barrier and also supports the neurological signaling that tells your muscles to contract forcefully, which is a dimension of muscle function that almost no other fruit addresses. Eat 1 full cup of blueberries either before your workout or within 30 minutes after. Pair them with a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil or a small handful of walnuts. The fat dramatically increases pterostilbene bioavailability in a way that makes the compound up to 60% more effective. And now, number 1. The fruit that topped every category in my analysis of over 60 peer-reviewed studies on nutrition and muscle aging. The fruit that, when I first read the full body of research, made me pick up the phone and call 3 of my colleagues to discuss it. That fruit is the banana, specifically the slightly underripe banana. And the reason it sits at number 1 on this list has everything to do with a compound called resistant starch and a hormonal cascade that most senior health content has never once mentioned. When a banana is slightly underripe, still firm, with a little green on the peel, it contains dramatically higher levels of resistant starch than a fully ripe banana. Resistant starch is not digested in your small intestine. Instead, it travels to your large intestine, where it feeds the specific species of gut bacteria responsible for producing short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Now here's where it gets extraordinary. Butyrate doesn't just stay in your gut. It enters your bloodstream, travels to your muscle tissue, and activates a protein called HDAC inhibition. Think of this like releasing the brakes on your DNA's ability to express muscle repair genes. A study from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that butyrate derived from resistant starch fermentation increased muscle protein synthesis in older adults by up to 26% independently of exercise. Independently, meaning your muscles were building new tissue even when the participants weren't working out, simply because the internal hormonal environment had been optimized. Now combine that with the fact that bananas are rich in potassium, the mineral responsible for regulating every single muscle contraction in your body, and magnesium, which is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions, including the ones that govern muscle relaxation and recovery. And you begin to understand why this fruit is number 1. Frank, a 74-year-old former construction worker from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, hadn't been able to walk up a full flight of stairs without gripping the railing and pausing halfway for 2 years when he first came to see me. After 4 months of incorporating 2 slightly underripe bananas into his daily nutrition, alongside a modest resistance training program, he walked up 3 flights of stairs at his daughter's wedding without stopping. He danced at the reception. He told me later it was the best night of his life in a decade. For maximum benefit, eat 1 to 2 slightly underripe bananas in the morning, ideally before activity. Pair them with a tablespoon of natural almond butter, which provides both leucine and healthy fat to amplify the anabolic signal, and a small cup of coffee. The caffeine in coffee has been shown to increase the rate at which muscle cells absorb glucose after resistant starch fermentation, creating a compounding effect that researchers at the University of Illinois described as a metabolic prime for aging muscle tissue. All references are in the description. Here's what I want you to understand as we close today. Muscle loss after 60 is real. The science on it is unambiguous, but so is the science on what can be done about it. You are not too old. You are not too far gone. Every single one of the fruits on this list works because your body, regardless of age, regardless of how long you felt weak or slow or diminished, still has the biological machinery to rebuild. It is still in there. The satellite cells are still there. The mitochondria are still capable of multiplying. The gene pathways that govern strength and recovery are still in your DNA. They're just waiting for the right signal. Your independence, your ability to lift a grandchild, to walk to the mailbox without fear, to open a jar, to climb a staircase without holding your breath, that is not behind you. It is still available to you. And sometimes the difference between getting there and not getting there is as simple as what you put in your fruit bowl this week. If this video gave you something valuable today, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss what we publish next. And here's my question for the comments. Which one of these 10 fruits are you going to start with first? And which one surprised you the most? Tell me below. I will read every single response, and your answer might just inspire someone else in this community to take the first step toward getting stronger. It is never too late. Let's prove it together.